Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fuck It podcast, where we're trying to show people if you can change your mind, you can change your life. This is episode 13. I'm here with my guy, Dan Harvey, local Philadelphia real estate investor and entrepreneur. Have known Dan now for more than a few years. Just somebody I've connected with a lot, and felt he had a really good story to share, and has had a lot of success in the real estate space. So just wanted to have him on so he could share a story. So Dan, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and greatly appreciate you hopping on with us today.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Frank. I appreciate it. I am Dan Harvey, Dan, the real estate man, and I'm a local Philly guy, born in Southwest Philly. Went to public school. Nothing all that crazy. I went to Dobbins, which is a Votech school, which means like they teach you trades and everything. And the reason I ended up in trade school, which is probably the deepest story, is probably wilder, but the main reason is that my mom wanted my brother and I to gain some skills so that we didn't have to go to college, right? It was the opposite of what a lot of parents was teaching, but for wilder reasons. But anyway, so it ended up being a great decision, or I'm glad that she had that thought process, even though what was underneath it, I don't necessarily agree with, because that allowed me to get a job at SEPTA between my junior and senior year, working at Dobbins. So for those who don't know what SEPTA is a local transportation company, like your buses and trolleys and subways and all that. And so I was a union electrician at 17. So that's coming right out of high school, full-time job.
And that got you in working with SEPTA, being in the union?
Being at Dobbins. So being at Dobbins, I got a job. First, it was a co-op program, and then I was hired. I was hired there full time after I graduated SEPTA. Interesting story about how I got the job is I was in shop class, and the shop teacher walked in. His name is Mr. Henry. He might have passed now. He was one of those guys. He was just like a matter of fact guy, very just kind of. Didn't really laugh a lot. He wasn't mean. He was just kind of straightforward.
Tell it like it is.
Walked in the room. What he said was, who here is not going to college? Didn't say why. That was his question. Raise your hands. I raised my hands. And you got to figure this was like 96, right? And so it was a big push, especially in the black community for sure. Right? It was like, go to college. You got to go to college. I don't care what you go to college for. You got to go to college. Basically, if you didn't go to college, you were destined to be a homeless bum under a bridge for sure. So nobody wanted to raise their hand. I knew I wasn't going to college, right? There wasn't the path that was put out for me. So I raised my hand. But I didn't have a problem. A couple other people raised their hands. But most of the class kept their hands down. Says, all right, are you with your hands? Come up to my desk. I was like, okay. So we go up to his desk. He hands out job applications for SEPTA. And then everybody's like, oh, I'm not going to college. He was like, nope. If you were honest, when I first asked, then you would all got one too. So it's kind of a, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a life lesson now, right? Just being true about what you're doing, and you never know, right? But the people that were faking for that one moment when it didn't matter, got 25 years ago, right? They would have had the same opportunity that I had just by being honest.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, like for me, and I think most people that live in Philly, you get a job as SEPTA, that's a pretty solid job, that's a good thing to get,
For sure.
So coming straight out of high school to get an opportunity like that, I'm sure felt good.
Oh yeah, it did. It was definitely life changing. I came out, I had that kind of lifelong job early on, the job that people have to search for a really long time, working a lot of shitty jobs or whatever, just to try to find that one. I never had that. Like I never had the retail job. I never had the job at Mickey D's. I'm not knocking it. I never had it. So I went right into a job that you could, people stay there 40
Yeah.
years plus, and there's growth.
Yeah.
So you can move up.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So, at what point did you start like your entrepreneur journey? And well, I know that you were doing some other stuff, as an entrepreneur before real estate. So, at what point, how old were you when you started kind of focusing on becoming an entrepreneur?
So I can't ever say I ever focused on it. I feel like naturally I'm a creative person when it comes to business opportunities and seeing things other people can't see. So
An opportunist.
yeah. So the first business that I had was I was a promoter. So I used to do parties and stuff like that, clubs. But we did big events as well. Excuse me. So I had this idea of street ball at the time, which you may know because you're a Philly guy, was really big.
Yeah.
Guys would come out. I mean, parks, course would be packed, hundreds, thousands of people just out there watching guys play ball. I said, man, it would be dope if we could get these guys to play inside against other street ballers from some other city, bring some rappers in, and also get the best high school players from Philly to play the best high school players from other cities. And when I tell everybody, say, man, you crazy. Nobody's going to pay for that. Like, why would I pay for that when I could just go to the court and watch it for free? I was like, yeah, I'm telling you, I think it's a good idea, though. I'm just telling you. So, talked it out. One of the first problems that we had was when I originally wanted to do this, I wanted to call it an all-star game. I didn't know at the time that there's rules around high school basketball, and there's only so many all-star games that high school players can play. And I didn't know that those politics were there. So I was like, okay, well, we can't call it a all-star game because I wanted the best players. So we ended up, I forget exactly what we called it, but we dropped the all-star. All right, and so we were able to get the best players, which wasn't my role. But we got the best players from here and the best players from New York, which, again, was just reaching out. We didn't know anybody up there. I had a sister that lived in Best-Stuyvesant, which is Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Is there anybody that you know that may? She's like, well, I'll ask around. Somebody she knew this gym teacher. And when I say this brother knew everybody, he was connected to the streets and to the high school players. I mean, it's just one of those things that I've learned. Like, you don't have to have the how yet.
No.
But if you really want it, things just come together.
Yeah, when you start like going down that path, right? Like you set something like a vision and you start doing the work.
Yeah.
Stuff just kind of
Stuff
falls
happens.
in place.
Absolutely. So we go up there. I didn't know this guy from Adam. We met him. He was a brother. I don't really know how old he was at the time, but I was young. I was like 19, 20. And so we hit it off because he see us, young guys, trying to do something, and he just went into action. He got the best players from up there. And so you got to imagine, this is pre-social media. And the hype was crazy. Up and down the East Coast, we had people calling us all over the place. The last piece of the puzzle was we had to find a location to hold the event. And here we are, a bunch of young dudes. Nobody really knows us, and we were trying to find a stadium to host it at. And everybody's telling us no. Again, reached out, met this local guy that was a AAU guy. He knew the coach at St. Joe's. I forget the guy's name, but whoever the coach was, like 99 or 2000, he was a well-known guy.
In St. Joe's?
St. Joe's.
Phil Martelli.
Yeah.
Fucking kind of odd-looking white dude
Yeah,
with like bald and shit. Yeah.
So well-known dude. So we meet with him, getting hit it off. He dig us. He see we genuine. He said, you know what? I'm going to let you have it here, right? They took a risk, right? Because you're just some young street guys, right? And it was like 10,000. I mean, sold out the door, around the block. It was crazy. And that set it off. And so we started doing that across the country. We did it in the Midwest. We did it down south. We did it in Philly a few times, and honestly, I thought that was going to be my path to becoming rich. I thought it was going to be like Alan Heyman or somebody like that. Ultimately, that's not what happened. But that was my first introduction into, business.
Yeah. And what years was that you were doing it?
First one was, I want to say 99 or 2000. We did it through like 2003. We ended up partnering with Rucker Park, which a lot of people know of, with a guy named Chris Rucker, who ran, I think his grandfather started it. So that really took it to the next level. It was just like a crazy run. So I was doing that, and like I said, I was 19, 20, 21, and we would do big like after parties at clubs, and I wasn't even old enough to drink technically, right? But we having these big parties at the club, and it was a good time. It was a wild time. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. Learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about people.
Yeah.
It was.
So how and why did that come to an end?
It's a good question. It's kind of, how it's like it's so long ago. It's kind of hard to take exactly why. I think that the people that I was partnering with, which was my brother and another buddy of mine, we just didn't agree on the path forward. Also, we did not have. Again, we're not like. I didn't go to business school or anything like that, right? So we're really figuring a lot of this stuff out.
Bootstrapping it.
Really figuring this out. So I tell you, like a really quick example of just not knowing. So our lawyer we had at the time was friends with the lawyers of the N1 guys. You probably heard of N1, the whole basketball guys. They're like some mainline guys. And he was like, hey, like what you guys are doing, you should meet up with these guys. I said, okay, and this is the lawyers. You really should have kind of, I don't know, whatever. So we go meet with these guys, and again, like we hit it off. Right? Basically, as long as you're all right person, that's one thing I think is another skill set. I can pretty much get along with anybody, no matter where you come from, whether you're in the streets or whether you in business. I generally can find some kind of common ground. So we're like, wow, we think we can do something. So they sponsored a piece of our first game, which at the time they only had the shirts. Remember, they started with the shirts.
Yep.
So it had the shirts. And the mistake, I believe anyway, that we made was that we let them come in and record the game. Because if you remember, and when N1 started off, they were just doing like regular indoor, like vanilla basketball game. They weren't doing no street ball stuff like that. I really feel like they kind of saw the energy. We had the DJ playing while they were playing ball. We had the halftime. We brought in rappers to do halftime show. We just brought that whole energy to it. Nobody had ever seen that before. Right? Nobody was doing it. And I think they saw them, was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
like
we might have to cut these motherfuckers out.
Like this is something, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then once we partnered with Rucker Park, which was like the mecca of street ball, it just made it that much more official. And so again, exactly why, I don't know. Sometimes things just die out.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a great experience and like a learning experience. I got a ton of value from it. So
man, I mean, loved it. Going out of town, meeting people, setting up shows, stuff like that, and just kind of trusting that things are gonna work out. Having really good guys. I had some really good guys around me at the time. Like the team I was with, it was solid. So we had no problem really going anywhere. Not even like we was causing no problems, but it was a lot of loyalty there. And when we moved, it was just good.
So you said that you did that. So you were about 23. What did you do? Did you like get into real estate after that?
So it was actually during that whole period. So and obviously I was still at SEPTA, and my mom is a real estate agent, and so she saw, I had the job at SEPTA. I'm doing these shows. I'm making money, and she's like, why don't you invest that money, right? Versus doing what a lot of young guys do,
blow it.
Yeah, blow it, right? Women, whatever the case is, clothes, jewelry, cars. And I had zero interest. The real estate wasn't even an idea in my mind. And but it's my mom. I said, well, I'll go out. I'll look at some things. I'll let her down lightly later on and make her feel like I'm like part of the process.
Act like you're interested.
Yeah, but not really, right? It's like, I'm going to make her feel like I'm on, yeah, mom, let's go look at some stuff. And what happened was, as I was going through the process and looking at these properties, and I'm like, you know what? This wouldn't be a bad third income stream, right? I got the job, I'm doing these events, and I could be a landlord. So ultimately, I did end up buying a property. Excuse me. It was a bank-owned duplex. I think it was like 2005 or 4 or something like that. This was like my first deal, and super simple. I think the property cost $20,000. I had like $25,000 or something like that saved up. So I just bought it cash. There was no analysis. Yeah. There was no underwriting of the deal. It was just like, oh, this is 20. I got 25. Oh, yeah. Cool. Let's do it. Like, let's get busy. So,
would you recommend someone does that nowadays?
I would not. So it all depends. If you were me, then hey, go ahead and get busy. But no, generally speaking, no, that's not. That
is not the way you want to do that at all.
That is not the way to do that. No, but it's amazing. It was so much I didn't know that I didn't even know to be afraid of.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had no fear whatsoever.
I had no fear because I didn't even know I should be afraid of it. It was just like, I'm not doing nothing with this money now.
You were not aware of how much could actually go wrong.
Nope. No clue at all. You got to, and again, this was early 20s. I'm single. Like, I'm just doing me. Yeah. So I'm always like, oh, I'll figure it out. Yeah. It wasn't even a big deal. I was just like, well, I'll buy it. And it just kind of sat there for a while. And I kind of worked on it, little by little as cash came in. But, certainly for most people, for all people, that's not a real strategy. Yeah. But
I know that's not a strategy. Yeah, let alone a real one.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up working out well. I fixed that up about a year and a half or so. And I ended up selling it off. I sold that building for $87,500, and I owned it cash. And I was like, damn, right?
How long did you hold it for?
About a year and a half, 2 years, somewhere along that. Maybe 2 years. It took me about a year and a half to fix it up, and I rented it out for a little while, and that was a pain in the ass. So I said, no, this is not for me. My temperament and my mindset at the time was not a landlord.
I don't got the patience for this.
No. And I had a young tenant that was trying that. So I said, yeah, it's probably best. This is not where I want to be.
You didn't have patience, and they were trying to test it.
Oh yeah, they were. Yeah. So I ended up selling that, and when I got that check, I'm like, damn, I got this check.
Yeah, I was gonna say that must have been kind of like an eye opener, right? You buy something for $25,000, put a couple bucks into it. You're probably not spending a significant amount of time on it, and then a couple years later, you sell that same thing for $80-some grand.
For quadruple what I bought it for. It definitely opened my eyes up to what real estate could be. Right, I did it because my mom wanted me to kind of look at it. So it wasn't something I wanted to actually do. But when I saw the benefits of it, I was like, oh man, this could actually be something. So that really got my mind flowing. It didn't at the time. My mindset was work a job until I retire, and then live life, because that's just how I was raised. Yeah. And so that's the type of time that I was on. Even with doing all the other stuff, it never really even occurred to me that I could ever make enough money independently of a job. That wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, you're probably like not even looking at yourself as like an entrepreneur or anything. Like you were just like hustling and doing some stuff that you like doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm a business guy. Now it seems like everybody does one thing, and now I always knew. It's like no. I didn't know at all. It just was things that was fun. I was with my buddies, stuff like that. At least for the one part of the business. And the real estate thing was just a little bit of a challenge, but yeah, certainly nothing that I knew at the time that I was going to be this real estate guy.
So what was so you bought that property and sold it a couple of years later. Mm-hmm. What was your real estate journey kind of after that? Did you still continue to buy? Was there a gap between you selling that and you buying some more, or?
No, actually, quite the opposite. While I owned that place, I had bought a triplex in Delaware County, which is right outside of Philadelphia. And this was my mom. She was showing a property that was marketed as a single family, but when she went to go look at it, it was a triplex. And she was like, you really need to go take a look at this place, right? So, and I was still living in Southwest. In fact, the first home I ever purchased was from my parents. I bought the house that I was raised in, which was a seller finance deal, which, again, I didn't even know what seller finance. I just was like, hey, it was like my parents were like, hey, I forget it, or whatever it was. I was like, well, how about if I give you this and then pay you off over, not knowing I was doing a seller finance deal. It just kind of made sense to me. They were like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. So I was still in Southwest. Southwest was wild. I was like, yeah, I need to really get out of here. So this was out the county, much better neighborhood. So ended up buying that place. I want to say that property I paid, I think, like $76,500. And here's an interesting story about that particular property, and that might have been 2005.
And so you moved into there, the triplex.
I moved into there. But even before I moved in there, I just want to kind of touch on this. Right before I was about to close on that property, the mortgage broker called me up and was like, oh, the interest rate I told you, like, that's not going to work. It's actually going to be whatever, more. I forget what it was. And I was kind of pissed. And I was getting ready to back out of the deal because not so much that the payment really bothered me. I felt like they had deceived me, and I was new, and they were taking advantage of me.
You felt wronged.
Yeah, I was in my feelings, right? That's what it is. I was in my feelings. But I mean, some of it is real. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't like when people switch up things on me.
Yeah, on the last minute too.
Yeah, last minute. It was like right before closing, and I was like, and I was going to back out the deal. So, long story short, ended up moving into that property. I lived in one unit, rented out the other two units. Even with the higher interest rate, I was making money a month. Yeah. It wasn't that it was just covering the mortgage. I made money. And so I met my wife about a year or so after that. And I ended up moving in with her. And the tenant that bought that property after me ended up buying it like 2 years later. I think she paid $187,000 for it. And I was like, damn. Yeah. I was like, you know what?
There might be something here.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I'm making money, and I don't know what I'm doing.
That sale, the triplex sale, was after the initial one that you had bought?
That was after that.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a couple of years. So I bought that triplex, say, towards the tail end of selling that duplex.
Gotcha.
And so it like overlapped by like a few months. And after I sold that, I said, okay, I can make some real money doing this. I got to get serious about it. And so that's when I really started to work on the mindset, started to say, there's so much I don't understand. There's ways that I was raised that I need to really look into to see if it makes sense. Like, I know I believe these things, but I don't even know if they're my thoughts or just thoughts that were given to me. So that's when I really started to challenge the way that I was raised. Because like I said, up until that point, it's like, get that job and hold on.
Yeah, talk about some of them things that you're saying that you were like challenging and you felt like, hey, you're not even unsure of like, they're your thoughts or someone else's. Like what type of, just be specific, I guess. Sure.
So my parents were deeply, deeply religious, I'll say. And so there was never much talk about money. And if if there was anything other than just having enough so that you're not homeless or hungry, it was like too much, right? And it's only for greedy people, and you won't make it to, whatever heaven or whatever their beliefs are. And so that's how I was raised with my ideas of money was, okay, yeah, you obviously need to make some so that you can live off of, but you don't want to get rich.
Man, money's almost just to survive.
Yes. This world is wicked. It's not going to be around long, so don't worry about that. Just, focus on these other things. And so, one of the things, and this is super important to me, and it drives the way I think about things. And this is what I tell people. I have at one time believed in something so much that I would be willing to die for it. Hands down. And then I found out it was not only wrong,
dead wrong,
but just bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I think most people never have come to that reality.
Yeah.
That the shit you believe could just be wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Not kind of like wrong.
Yeah, dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
and listen, trust me, because I've experienced this too. And it's like you believe it.
Yes.
Just because somebody you love and trust said it to be true.
Yes.
You did zero research into to see if there's any accuracy or truth behind it. But just because someone you love and trust so much and you think that they know, it has to be true. But
Yes.
no, trust me, I found out that yes, that's you have to do your own research.
You have to do your own research, and I think that's most people. It is unfortunate, and I think that because most people haven't been faced with that reality, they don't necessarily operate with the idea that I could be wrong. They could be wrong. I operate with that. I believe this, but I could be wrong.
You have to be, to me, right? You have to be open to the possibility of being wrong.
Yes.
Right? You can't be. I'm not, I have some pretty firm beliefs, but it's I could be wrong. Anything is I could be wrong,
Yes, yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're wishy-washy or anything like that. It just means I'm open to hearing other people's opinions.
Exactly.
Right? I'm open to hearing other people's experiences. And I'm also have to realize is that I'm limited by my experiences and by my perspectives on things. And so if I've only ever experienced this, it's kind of hard for me. Maybe somebody experienced this other thing, right, that had some other outcome or whatever it is. And I'm like, no, is this? Well, yeah, but you've only ever experienced this thing.
Yeah.
So how do you really know? Right?
Yeah, it was same in my household, in terms of money and stuff, right? It was if people got money, they probably rip somebody off or they scam somebody. If you have money, you're probably not a good person. And I genuinely believed all of that stuff. And I really didn't even start really changing them beliefs until I got into real estate in my late 20s, when I started meeting people with money. Because prior to me getting in real estate, I didn't know anybody with money, right? So it was you actually, you meet people that are supposed to be bad people and evil people, and then you're holy shit, these are actually the most genuine, straight up. They will, they will be the first to help you up and uplift you. And it's wow, I was completely wrong.
Yeah. So, to go back to that question that you're asking me is, I started reading, a lot of books that people have heard of. So there was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There was Think and Grow Rich. There's some other books, but books like those that really just made you think about things and challenged the way that you thought about things is what really kind of set me on that course of curiosity, really, of wow, well, if I didn't know this, what else is out there, and so what people have to realize is that it's a bit of a lonely journey too, because what happens is you start to grow, and unfortunately, a lot of times people around you don't.
Exactly.
And what it can be taken as, and I had this happen in my own life, is that people think, oh, you think you better than us. It's like, no, I'm just realizing some of the things that I was doing wasn't making sense.
Exactly.
Right. And so, yes, I wanna, hang out, but I just don't want to get fucked up every time we go out, and every time, you know what I'm saying? Like, or all we do is just talk about the past, so, and I've noticed, I'm curious what your experience might have been, is it wasn't so much that I separated from people, but people would separate themselves from me.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%.
And sometimes it would just be obvious, and somebody would just slowly fade away, like Back to the Future. Remember the picture?
Yeah.
How they slowly started to fade away?
Yeah, no, I've experienced that same thing, and I feel like most people that I know that can kind of have come from like one kind of lifestyle or whatever you want to say, and you grow into a different one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like people would always say to me like, oh, like I would look at change as a bad thing. Like, I'm like, oh, you're changing. Like, oh, you're getting funny. You know what I mean? Like, not on like, oh, you're changing. Like, that's good. Like, no, it would be I'm like, oh, you think you're, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So like when people would say that to me, like when I was making the changes, even though like I was trying to change, I would get offended. Like, I'm like, oh, what the fuck you mean? Like, I'm changing. Like, no, I'm just. But then you get to a point you're like, no, like change is actually a good thing. Like
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not supposed to be staying the same, like ever. You should be on a constant path of trying to grow and get better. So
it's interesting. Sounds like our experiences were similar. And so this is what I say, especially to guys that have our background, maybe come from like lower income areas, and more, I'd say, kind of like street code-ish kind of friendships, is that change is a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And what happens is people say that to you, and you will self-sabotage yourself. You will hold yourself back. It's not that they're going to hold you back. But you will start.
Let me stress, because no one else can hold you back.
Yeah, no one else. Yeah. That's a excellent point. No one really can. But you hold yourself back. You'll stop trying to, show changes and all that sort of stuff. And no, I'm still the same. It's like, no, you should.
Yeah.
You, especially if you know you're doing some dumb shit, you really should be like,
you should be like, not be staying on this path.
You should be like, no, I'm not. Like, and I look back at some of the things, like, I really put myself out there, right, with certain beliefs that I had and certain ways I thought I had to be, right, and some of it, and I just, one of the things that I do is, and I enjoy doing, is going to like high schools and talking to kids, especially like young brothers, because I understand a lot of their upbringings and
they don't know no different than you were like in your situation. You just don't know what you don't know, and and it's like they don't like. I want to do more of that, like just going and talking to troubled youth or whatever, and it's because like I didn't know. Like I wish someone would have shared this like information with me. It
is, and so one of the things that we've talked about is conflict resolution. And so one of the ways that I've explained it, and I did this with a couple of brothers, was like, I'm not going to go in there corny and they say, yo, somebody hit you, you just walk away. I say, no, because I understand that doesn't work on the block.
No,
I'm telling you, I understand that. Because if you let him do it, then you got 3-4 other guys that's going to think it's cool. I understand that. You got to use your best judgment with that. But here's what I want you to understand. That doesn't work for the rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to understand that, yes, maybe that's how you survived here. But there's a whole wide world where you have to have discipline. You have to learn how to have tough conversations and not get physical, not get violent. You have to keep your emotions in control, right?
I laugh because I literally was talking to my sister about this shit the other day, but... Like I would literally just have like a fucking ghetto type of mentality, like where it's like somebody like disrespected me or something. And I can remember working at a job and like I was working in like a bank or something. And like I was like cool with my supervisor and like he was saying like that this like general manager, had this somebody that was like, higher up, like had said something about me. I'm like, well, that motherfucker better not say it to my face. And he was like, Frank, he was like, what if he does? I'm like, well, he's going to have a fucking problem. And he's like, then you're going to get fired and go to jail. Like,
You have the problem.
Yeah. And then like, and like nothing happened, but I'm just
yeah.
like, it's crazy like to think about that, right? Like this
It is.
guy, my boss, was going to be critical of me, probably justifiably so for something I was doing.
Yes.
I'm like, this motherfucker better not be disrespectful to me.
But you know how many people never get out of that mindset? And they can't see it because they've never been, sometimes they haven't been showed a better way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm all about accountability. I don't think anybody owes it to you. It does help to see it.
Yeah.
But you also got to realize, like, listen, my life is shit for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to take I am a full accountability person, period. Ultimately, in any situation, you got to look at your part in it.
Yep.
Because in most cases, you're the only part of it. You can only control yourself. It's a better way to say it. So meaning if I even say something like this, or somebody scams me, it's 100% wrong, like they scam me. But I also got to ask myself, what was it about me that opened me up to that scam?
Yeah.
Because if I don't look at that, okay, I may get mad at that person, and justifiably so. But if I don't look at why I allowed it to happen, or why it was something that could happen, then it will most likely happen again.
Yeah, and to me, right, like there's an important question to ask yourself when something like that happens, which is just like, hey, like not saying like, oh, this is all my fault, but what could I have done to prevent this scenario?
Yes.
Right? Like,
there you go.
Which isn't like taking all fault and responsibility for what happened, but it's just like, all right, well, hey, like, what could I have done differently to not put myself in this situation again?
Perfectly
And
said,
that's how you can kind of actually like learn and grow.
Yeah, and I it seems like that word, like being accountable, is very difficult. Right now. If I know you follow me on like social media. My number one hashtag is I am not a victim.
Yeah,
because I believe that there is this push for people to have a victimized mindset, see themselves
100%.
as being a victim all the time and in every situation.
And the thing that like people need to understand about that, like if you're a victim, right, then that means you have no control.
Yes.
And if you have no control, like you're not going to go after anything in life because you have no control of the outcome. Like I always say, I've never met a victim that was successful. And I've never met anyone that was successful that was a victim. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, and I'm sure you know this, I'm saying it for the audience, like the victim, like if somebody gets like fucking shot and killed or like raped, yeah, there's a victim. But like we're talking about a mindset, a victim mindset, which is where, you're unaccountable, nothing is your fault, everything is always on someone else, you got bad luck. Like that's a victim mindset. And if you have that type of mindset, you're just not going to be able to do anything with your life, in my opinion.
That's very true. And I would even take it a step further because I'm not saying that there are not victims of things. So you can be a victim.
Yeah.
You can be a victim of a robbery. You can be. So there's the actual
in a literal
in a literal
sense.
sense, you can be a victim. But then there's the mental victimhood where now you're like, oh, I'm so scared to go outside and, I'm the kind of person that people think they can. And you will internalize what happened to the point where it paralyzes you.
Exactly.
So, of course, you can be a physical victim of something because people like to take things and go to extremes.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is when you allow that to become who you are on an internal level where it affects how you think about things, right? And so you are allowing that event to kind of live in your head just forever.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by, victim mindset. And it seems to really be getting more popular now. It's like everybody's a victim of something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's just like, again, like it's just not a good place or position to be in because like there's no getting out of it, like not in the current, like keeping that mindset. Like if you have the victim mindset and you don't change that, again, I just have never really met anyone that was happy, successful, anything, because it just like, you're in essence saying, hey, I don't have control over anything. And in my opinion, we always have control, right? Like we don't necessarily have control of every single thing that happens to us, but we 100% have control over how we react to a situation.
And it's curious because what I've noticed about people that have victim mindsets is that they want to make these monumental changes to all these things and institutions.
Yeah, I
and
was going to say, not changes to themselves.
But they don't want to make any changes to themselves. It's like, so let me get this right. In your mind, you want to change all these moving parts, but you don't want to change a thing about yourself. And how does that make sense? Right? And it doesn't mean that changes doesn't need to be made here, but you have to also make changes with yourself as well. So it's not an either or thing, but especially if you think all the changes, you're putting all the weight on everybody else to change for you to not feel like a victim. I mean, you're going to have a rough life.
Yeah, and the crazy part is everyone actually took the perspective is like, hey, if I actually was focused on me and was focused on changing me and becoming better, and we did that as a collective, like holy shit, we would see significant change in the world.
You would. But that's changing yourself is a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
And complaining is almost no work.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
Easy.
It's very lazy.
I always say, like, doing bad is easy as fuck. Like, it really is. Like, doing good and trying to become better, make more money, get in better shape, that shit is fucking hard.
It is.
You know, and it's like people want to be, like, critical of the people that actually, like, go after stuff. But it's like, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, I think they know it's difficult. They don't really want to put that work in because it is. I mean, putting yourself out there. We kind of talked about this, and it doesn't mean that you have to be in business. You know, just putting yourself out there and opening yourself up to failures. I don't even like the word failure, but things not working out, right? Because I feel like you can always learn something, or to being rejected. Like, and nobody likes this. So I'm not going to act like, you at some point you like it. No. But you do become stronger. You become okay, it's not the end of the world. All right, this person didn't like it, so what? I'll move on. Or maybe I need to tweak it a little bit. But you learn about whatever your process is or whatever your product is. And the most important part is that you learn about yourself.
Yep.
One of the biggest things I had to learn along this process is I jumped on Facebook showing videos 2014 flips and stuff that I was doing, and people used to ask me to speak at events and stuff like that. And so one of the things that really held me back, and this thing here that I'm gonna talk about, it used to bother me so bad I wouldn't even talk about this. I'm serious. Like, I really wasn't. Is that so? I stuttered really badly as a kid.
Same.
People really made fun of me.
For a couple years.
Yeah, and so it really. I'm not an introvert, but it made me very I didn't really want to speak because I always felt like, they think I'm stupid because I'm stuttering. I couldn't get the words out, and so I would avoid speaking at events because I was like, well, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to look stupid, and it. But there's this thing, and I'm curious if you have it, where it's like you're at this point where you have to, you gotta move forward. Like, it's you ran out of excuses. Like, I gotta either do this or just never mention it again. It's either one or the other. And I just got tired of this idea just controlling me to the point where I'm not taking these opportunities. And I said, you know what? Next person asks me to speak, I don't care what it's about. I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I stuttered for a couple years. Mm-hmm. And I've always been scared of public speaking. Like, I'm telling you, I still get nervous as fuck when I do it. But I never really understood. I didn't remember why. But always stayed with me. So I knew I had a fear of it. So I was like, I have to fucking do this because I honestly don't have many fears, conscious fears anyway. So it bothered the shit out of me that I would get so scared of it. But so I can remember, this is probably back in 2016-ish, 2017. But Jim Zaspel asked me to speak at an event, right? So I never spoke. The last time I had spoken was in when I was 20, CCP, public speaking in front of fucking 20 people.
Yeah.
So the first fucking real estate event I speak at, there's well over 100 people. So I can remember literally being in the crowd, fucking sweating, my hands, my heart's racing and shit. I'm looking around. I was like, I'm about to get the fuck up out of here. I swear to God, I was in my head. I'm fucking leaving this.
You want to make a run for it?
I swear to God, I lie to you not. In my head, I was like, oh fuck. I seen Jim. I seen so. I was like, I can't do this shit.
You look at the exits.
I swear, I was. I lie to you not, but. fortunately, I did not run. I did not go.
Yeah.
And since then, like I have gotten, and the funny thing is, right, like I get so like fear and anxiousness before it, but while I'm up there and afterward, it actually gives me fulfillment. Like it feels good because you actually are you're helping and providing value to other people. So it's like it's funny that something that gets me so like anxious and fearful can give me so much, you know, fulfillment from doing it. And again, I do still get like nervous about it, but it's something because I'm a very introverted person. Like I'm not an extrovert like whatsoever. But it's something that now, like anytime someone asks me to speak, I speak. Like I'm gonna like Nick Tang just asked me to speak at his event in like a few weeks at like the King of Prussia. So anytime someone asks me now, like I'll speak, and it's literally just because it's like I want to get to a point where I'm not fucking anxious, I'm not like sweating because I'm about to go on stage. But yeah, it's super important to like kind of like face your fears because to me, like you don't eliminate fear, right? Like fear isn't something like, oh, it's gone. No, you just don't let it control you. You control the fear instead of letting the fear control you.
And another way that I've heard it said is that you don't lose the fear. It's just that you become braver.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's a muscle. Like all these things is that you have to. It's like your physical muscles.
You got to get uncomfortable.
You have to get comfortable, or it will control you. And now at this point, you could ask me to go. It was 500 people like upstairs waiting. Yo, like let's go, right? And just to imagine where I was years ago. That when you said I laugh so hard because I know what you mean. That just, I mean. Fear, I don't know if fear is a strong enough word that like, yo, I really don't.
Fear does, what was happening inside of me, fear does no justice to that.
Fear doesn't do it justice, but that's the word that we had. Maybe terror might be a better word.
I've seen some fear when I've seen like a ragged dog before. This was something way different than that.
It's like bring the dog back. That's funny.
But no, it's funny because again, so to me, it's like people should just lean into more of their fears because, like, to me, like that has allowed me to kind of grow so much. You know, like just being again, it's not something that is like I'm like great at it and eliminated the fear, but I'm like so much more comfortable with it. I'm not ready to run out of room anymore.
And look at all of the benefits and blessings and opportunities that have come to you because you faced that fear. I mean, I can't tell people how many opportunities I've had simply because I was at the front of the room speaking. And imagine had I allowed that fear to control me or be the boss, right? Those opportunities, those people that got to see my talents would have never seen my talents, right? They would have just been stuck inside of me silently. And it's a shame. There's a lot of people living like that right now, silently with all these talents, worried about, and this is not, let me say this because I don't want to sound like I'm on my high horse because I understand. But ultimately, and Frank and I, we were actually talking about this. People worry about, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want, first of all, people got short attention span. I mean, super short attention spans. You see with even superstars, when they go through something crazy, it's about one news cycle. If you some person over there in like Cleveland, Ohio, nobody cares that much.
And in reality, you're just internalizing that shit. Like nobody's even like, you know, you have all this internal shit going inside your mind. And no one is even thinking about you.
No. They all have their own shit going on in their life. They may look at it for a second like, that was interesting, and move right along with it.
And it's funny, and it's kind of to the same point that we're making.
Cleveland.
It's funny because to the same point that we're kind of making, right? Like my mentor, Mark Evans, like, you know, in 2017, he told me to start being more active on social media, creating videos and stuff. And the last couple years, I've been like a lot more active in terms of consistent like videos and stuff. But even that, like just making a video like of myself, it was super fucking uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, like what if people don't watch it and all this other shit. And in reality, like now, I pretty much make a video a day, like whatever, people watch them, they like it, whatever. But like one thing, you know, for me conquering that fear, I get like blessings tenfold now by creating that content. Constantly, people I know, I don't know, like will just send messages, man, like I really needed that video today, like that really helped me, and stuff like that. And me and Dan were talking about this, like that shit kind of gives me a feeling and fulfillment that I like don't get from doing like anything else. And if I would have, you know, not conquered the fear of like making a video, like I would have never been able to get them that feedback and that that feeling that I get now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do want to say one thing. I don't know how much time we have, but one thing I will say. I've known you for some years. One of the things that I've been impressed with you,
Just one.
Just one. No, but this is the thing I've been most impressed with is the vulnerability that you've been showing over the years, at least let's say over the past year or so that I've noticed. And for me, I think that's the next frightening thing, right? Is what happens when you start to peel back who people think you are.
Oh yeah.
Versus, some of the kind of who you really are.
Yeah.
But also some of the issues that we go through.
Yeah,
because I think sometimes people they think, Frank's life is perfect.
Yeah, it's funny that you say this because just two things that I've shared plenty of publicly. Drinking. I actually had a year, sober yesterday, because I had a
nice,
bad
man. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And then the divorce, but it was I used to think sharing my issues and being open and honest, was a weakness, right? But in reality, it's a fucking superpower because it's it kind of is a release for yourself. But it just being open and honest with yourself, can allow you to grow. It's funny, with the fucking, I laugh because I hid. People that knew me, they knew how bad of a drinker that I was. But I would say nobody in the real estate community knew that. And I would meet people, not meet people, but I would be more vocal about my drinking problem once I actually stopped. And people would be like, "Oh, you don't got a drinking problem?" And I'm thinking to myself, you're going to tell me that I don't? Why don't you ask my wife and kids if I have a drinking problem? But just like you say, because it's people are. They get a perception of you on social media and they probably think, I don't know, that I must have this fucking perfect life and I have no problems, but that's the furthest from the truth. You know, I probably have had way more problems than most people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no, to me, just sharing and again, in terms of the drinking divorce, I've shared a lot about lately, but in terms of business, I was always I was always transparent with the ups and downs of it because it would annoy the shit out of me when I would see people they're just talking about the wins and wins and wins, and you're not talking about your losses. So I've always tried to share the wins and the losses because that's real and that's reality. There ain't nobody in business and life just winning all of the time. And
it's not real.
And if somebody's kind of coming off that way, fucking run.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they're lying and they're about to ask you for some money.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's interesting. So I've never had a problem being transparent with business because I think to me it's just obvious, right? It's just natural. But I have had an issue being I use the word vulnerable because I feel like I'm a transparent person, but vulnerable, no.
Yeah.
Am I going to let you see me hurt? No. Am I going? And
shit, it was kind of hard for nice people to see me hurt this year. I was just going through a lot of pains.
Yeah, but I know it humanizes you.
Oh yeah.
It makes you like a person.
Yeah, just with that shit, mad people hit me up, in terms of people that were hey, I'm struggling too. Motherfuckers you, oh shit, damn, you know what I mean? And it was because I was vulnerable to share my struggles. Literally, people were reaching out to me, sharing those same struggles that they don't necessarily share it on social media.
No, certainly. And I believe I even reached out to you, but and I think for men, it's even harder because it's just generally is not that space to do that.
Suck it up, be a fucking man.
And then especially I'd say in this business kind of alpha world I hate that word alpha, but where it's mostly a lot of chest beating all the time everywhere, and it's kind of well, shit, I'm not letting my shield down around here. These guys, these guys are cutting me quick. Yeah. So it's interesting, and it's something that. I'm still working on, and one of the things I did last year. In fact, around this time, I went to a Tony Robbins event, Date with Destiny, and when I tell you, man, it was an eye-opening event.
I've heard it was an amazing. I haven't been.
Wow. I honestly went down there to, try to strengthen some business contacts. Yeah, that joint was all out the window. Right. I mean, it's raw and real, unlike, and this is not an advertisement for it, but it's just raw and real, like nothing I've ever seen. I've never seen people be that open, honest, and vulnerable.
Yeah,
right?
you were not. More than a few people have said that.
Yeah, and it was like, wow. We've all, because we all been around the block. People have conversations. You can tell they're leaving some stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
You may can infer what they're leaving out.
Yeah.
But they're not telling you.
Yeah.
No, this is like boom.
Yeah. A to Z.
Yeah, here's what it is. You're like, wow, they're really going in. So that was definitely opening. And it is something that personally I want to work on getting better at, because I think it does humanizes. It will humanize you. It'll, humanize me for people who don't know me.
Yeah.
I don't want people in any way, shape, or form thinking I'm perfect. Like I'm not, and I don't think I pretend to be, but I think just by how social media works, it tends to it highlights the best parts of your life. Yeah. Right. And so, I don't want somebody out there, thinking like, oh, it's all sweet, because it ain't all sweet. But also, you don't want it to be all sweet, because it makes the blessings that much better.
Yeah, 100%. Like to me, yeah, like I just even always think that like the shit that I kind of how I grew up and stuff, and like the trauma and dysfunction and shit, like makes me appreciate good shit so much more because of all of the bad shit. And that even and that's a kind of a life thing, but like even in business, I appreciate the good times because of the bad times I went through.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. It's, yin and yang, right? There's nothing new, but I think people are often, they're running from the bad because they don't want to feel it.
Yeah, and just that brings up a good point, right? Like people run from bad, from failings. And to me, everyone, and I don't even, like you said, like to use the word failure, but like everyone goes through trials and tribulations, right? Like everyone goes through some shit. At no point in life do you stop going through shit. Like,
never, yeah.
Like, you don't, like, it doesn't, like, oh, shit, like, I'm a millionaire, or, like, you always are going to go through shit. It's just about, like, how you respond to it, right?
Yeah.
And more importantly, like, are you going to learn and kind of grow from it? I'm going through the divorce now. Me and my soon-to-be ex went through something pretty similar 10 years ago, right? And if I'm just being 100, like, if I would have learned the stuff that I've learned in the last 5 months, the first time that we went through the shit, if I would have did the learning and growing then, I probably would not be in the position that I'm in now. Yeah. Which there's nothing I could do about it, just being honest. But like, if you don't learn and grow from an experience, like it's going to repeat itself. Like what's that like? It's just like a Chinese proverb. It's like the feather, the hammer, and the train.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, it's a fucking good one, right? So when the universe wants you to, recognize something, they will tickle you a little bit. Hey, listen here with a feather. Well, if you don't learn the lesson then, it's going to come back with a hammer. Hey, well, if you don't learn from the hammer, you're going to get hit with a fucking freight train, and that's usually when you're going to learn.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, pain is a hell of a motivator. Pain is a hell of a motivator, man. I don't even try to run from it at this point. Because the other thing that I've learned or from myself is I would not admit to myself that I was going through any pain, because I didn't want to talk about not being vulnerable to people. I didn't want to be vulnerable to myself. Yeah. Nah, this ain't as bad. Good. Yeah, I'm good.
I would always say like fine. Yeah. And my mom would always say like it's an acronym, fine. Fucking insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Oh, that's nice.
So I try not to ever use the word fine in front of my mom.
Yeah. I mean, it's so, sometimes you just gotta stop trying to short cycle their process. Feel the pain.
Oh yeah.
Go through the pain.
Yeah, lean into that shit and grow.
Yeah, and then move past it. Because the longer you sit there trying to act like it's not real, you're just dragging it out.
Yeah.
You're dragging it out. Because at some point, no matter how much you try to push stuff down, right, I feel like it's turning to Dr. Phil now, but it's like the longer you try to push stuff down, it's going to find it'll creep up out you.
I say that if you don't deal with your problems, eventually your problems will deal with you.
Boy, you a true dad. You got all the sayings. I know your kids hear all these sayings.
Oh yeah, got like half of them from my pop.
Yeah, I know.
Yo, it's funny too with that dad shit because like when your dad saying it, like I don't want to hear this shit, motherfucker.
Yeah,
and then now it's like half of the ones he would say to me.
Yeah, and it's funny because what happens is the way it works is a lot of that stuff, and this is how I even think about when I talk to my kids. I understand. First of all, they're young, so I understand everything I say to them. They're not gonna understand.
Yeah.
You don't have enough life experience to understand it. But I'm planting that seed. It's there. You know, they can't take that part away, and I'm consistent with it. You know, and especially with like my son. He's good dude, but he can get very angry and emotional. And I'm like, I know where that's from, right? I get that.
Let me guess, Dan. He gets that from his mom, right? Dan?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. That's how the family. Wow. But you know, and I try to talk to him. Hey, you know, I know you said that, but is that really how you feel? You know, I want you to understand. You know, so constantly, and I get it. You know, he's young. But I want to plant these seeds now because at some point, even with like my parents, some things they said to me, that John was in one ear, out the other. Not even just my parents, just what other people would say. Sometimes old heads, man, get out of here, old head. And then 4 or 5 years,
that's what he meant. I should have listened.
Damn, old head. My bad.
They actually did know what they were talking about.
Yeah, they actually knew what they was talking about.
Somebody that has 20 more years of life experience than I do might know a little bit more than I do.
I was a young boy running full speed. So if you told me something about slowing down, get out of here, old head. You talking that old head stuff. Yeah. You know, so it's, you know, that's, I feel like as a father, that's definitely one of my jobs is to try to equip them with, you know, some of the skills. And there's things like how we started out. There's things I'm still ignorant about. I don't know. There's things I still do wrong. So I'm not operating under the idea that I know everything. But here's the things that I think I know. Right, and then it's your job to build on that, right?
Yeah, no, like that's what I tell my kids. Like my kids I got my two oldest, 22 and 16, and then two younger, 8 and 7. But I realize now, like I can't control how they are. Like it's not going to be like I want you to be this way, so you're going to be this way. I gotta educate and share as much good information with you as possible, and just hope that it sticks with you. And like it's my job to give it to you. It's up to you what you do with the information.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but, like otherwise, you're going to be a puppet master like their whole life.
Yep.
And they'll probably end up just hating you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or just doing something totally opposite just to spite you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you gotta let people be, and just try to give them the best information at least the best that we have at the time.
Yep. All right, we're gonna get to the final 4 questions now.
All
right. So question number 1. What book, movie, or experience fundamentally changed your perspective on life and why?
So, I'll give you a real book, not the book I always say. It was a book, and I cannot think of the name of it, but I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, which I don't know if you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses.
I don't know much about any religions, to be honest. But.
So, and I'm a firm believer. But I was raised by my parents since I was a kid. It was a book I read. Man, I cannot think of it. But anyway, it just exposed the truth about this religion. And when I say it changed my reality on everything, I said, going back to what I was saying earlier, the guy's last name was Franz. And he was like top level in the organization. It's called the governing body. And he just exposed everything. And I was like, wow. I've been believing this, willing to give my life for this. And this is just
made you question everything.
Everything. And it made me realize that, you can believe something so deeply and truly and it not be real. And that to me was just like,
now,
I was like 22, 23 at the
Yeah, I was
time.
going to say, like, because I remember you talking earlier about kind of going on like a self-development journey. So was there like a correlation between like you reading that book? Was that
No, that was I had an emptiness in my life. So we were doing those parties and those events.
Yep.
That brings a kind of lifestyle. And I was just like, and it was great, right? It was young, it was great. Till it wasn't. I was like, man.
It was still wasn't.
Yeah, she seemed like I was at some point it just stopped being fun. It felt empty.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, maybe I need to look back into this spiritual thing that I was raised in.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of called me back because I had left. I had walked away from it. I said, well, let me look into this whole thing. And that's what kind of took me down that path, which number one, it freed me from attachment to that organization, but it also let me know that I could have a spiritual connection without the need of some intermediary.
Yeah. That's how I am. Like, I was never raised religious, like, at all, but, like, I'm not really religious at all, but, like, I'm spiritual. Like, I believe in a higher power, but, like, yeah, I don't really follow any particular religion.
Yeah. So neither do I now. So that was more or less of I felt like I needed some direction in my life, and I don't know where that came from because there were other people around me was having a ball. They wanted to keep that party going. I was just kind of like
Conscious was talking to you.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, literally, you just kind of be out there and you just like like this used to be a ball. Now I'm just kind of like, well, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
growth was happening.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
And you don't see it and you don't realize it at the time, I should say, but, like, growth was just happening, you know?
Yeah, like nobody. If anybody says, "Oh yeah, I knew that was growth," like, man, BS.
No.
That shit, that's not how that works.
Something was happening. In hindsight, it was growth. At the time, I didn't know what the fuck it was.
At the time, I didn't know what it was. So unfortunately, I can't think of that book. I would say like a Rich Dad Poor Dad, but honestly, that other book, not probably changed my life more than anything. Number one, it freed me, right, mentally.
Yeah.
But it also gave me a new perspective, the one that we talked about of, hey, you can believe in something full on and be wrong.
Yep.
Right. And so from that point on, I never try to forget that, because you can believe in some things. But
Yep.
yeah.
Nice. Question number 2. How do you define success?
Wow. So for me, first thing is peace of mind, right? So that's always been biggest thing for me. Anybody who knows me know that's top. Like if you are bringing chaos into my life, I will remove myself from you. I don't care what you're bringing me. You can't bring me money, sex. There's nothing you can, I'll give you this. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is my biggest thing, right? The second thing is freedom of time.
Yeah.
Right. So my freedom of time is super important. I get to, for the most part, spend as much time with my kids as I want to. I get to go to all the events. And that to me means like a lot. Now I do work a lot, but when it counts,
when
I'm
you
there.
need to be somewhere, you can be there.
I can be there. Yeah, there is nobody that can tell me I can't. I don't got to schedule it, and I'm not knocking the job. I'm just saying, like, I don't have to do those things. I can just, I need to be off here. Fine, like reschedule.
Yeah, that was literally like your answer was pretty much the same as my answer to that question. Like it was pretty much like time, freedom, and just like peace. Question number 3: if you could have a conversation with any historical figure, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
That's a good question. And I love history. Trying to think of the context.
It could be anything. It could be about like life, business, like literally anything.
Yeah.
People have went from like literally like business people to God, and with this question.
Yeah. Trying to think of people that you know who I would actually now I'm kind of thinking about is is Muhammad Ali. He really risked it all.
Oh yeah.
You know, at a time when what he was saying was super unpopular.
Yeah.
He put, you know, like what kept him going during that time? Because even the people he was riding with kind of turned their back on him once he was no longer like viable as far as income came and all that sort of stuff. You know, people like that are uncompromising because that's a lot of pressure. That's
especially
a lot of pressure.
Him, like at that time, like I couldn't even imagine it.
No, yeah, you know, and this
especially
wasn't
like
little pressure. This
you're
is governmental kind of pressure.
And you're at the height of your career, and you walk away from that, you know, to kind of stand on your values. Like that is rare.
Yeah, that is rare, and I mean those sort of people, I believe, are rare people. So I would just be interested just to have a candid conversation with them about like what kept them going, because that couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Last but not least, question number 4. What was a time you had self-limiting beliefs, and what did you do to overcome them?
I think the fact that I had to overcome a lot of self-limiting beliefs. One was, about making money, which we talked about earlier. I think the biggest thing was that I would have something to teach that people would want to learn from me. Yeah, but I think that was more about me than about the information.
Yeah.
And so I had to understand that I was worthy of being learned from.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, right? We were kind of talking about that earlier before we hopped on the pod, but just having kind of like imposter syndrome, and it's who are we to be kind of guiding and teaching and coaching other people? And in reality, like, we have way more experience than like probably the majority of people that are actually doing it. And not only that, we have good intentions behind it. Like, to me, that's a big part of kind of trying to lead people, to educate them, help them, coach them. Like, you have the experience, the good intentions, but no, it's literally the same shit that I struggle with. And again, you were the one that had said this, but it's like the people that actually are capable and like have the experience seem to be the ones that are kind of like
most reluctant.
Yeah, to actually do it.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've seen. I'm glad that I pushed past it. A lot of what you said is really the most motivating force. And I've always kind of joked, like, man, maybe I'm not a good business guy because I like the impact more than the money.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's some people that sounds weird, and but I do. Like, I like that. I've seen people that's been able to change their lives and take on opportunities and do stuff like that, and they say, man, that really helped me feel comfortable moving forward.
I sincerely believe that that's everyone's purpose in life, to help other people, and just some people never realize it, and it's just some people realize it much later in life. But like to me, like you're saying that you get like a better feeling than anything else. I said the same thing, and it's like literally just like helping people.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up episode number 13 of the Fuck It podcast. Greatly appreciate you hopping on, Dan.
Absolutely.
Great information shared. Lots of valuable information. Let our audience know, where they can reach you and what you would be able to help them with.
Sure. So, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Dan the Real Estate Man 1, because I lost the password to Dan the Real Estate Man. On Facebook, it's Dan the Real Estate Man, and the website is dantherealestateman.biz. And if you're interested in learning how to get started in real estate, if you need financing for deals, my specialty is what I call multi-family conversions. And it's just a strategy I utilize where I convert properties into multifamily dwellings by right, and skipping the variance process. So if any of that sounds of interest, you can follow me to just see what I'm doing or book a consultation.
Yeah, and Dan's a great follow. He puts out a lot of valuable content and, has a ton of experience with converting properties. So definitely give him a follow. And thanks, everyone, for joining us on episode 13. Greatly appreciate any, shares, comments, likes, and feedback. Thanks, everyone, and see you guys next week.